This is Laricy Live, and I'm your host, Matt Laricy. We're giving you unfiltered access to the world of real estate, where we can cover the market trends, news, and honest answers to keep you ahead of the real estate game. Laricy Live is brought to you by Lincoln Title. Lincoln Title is the best and most efficient title company in Chicago and is the best place to close your property. This podcast is brought to you by Titan Builders. Titan Builders have been remodeling condos and homes in the Chicagoland area for over 35 years. Whether it's remodeling your kitchen or bathroom or getting your home ready for sale, Mike and Mark are your go-to guys. Laricy Live is brought to you by Guaranteed Rate and Ben Cohen. Ben Cohen is the #1 lender in Illinois and can close your loan in as fast as 8 days. Okay, so today we are talking about a little thing that we call prime time. Prime time is my favorite time of the year. Maybe it's just because I like saying prime time. Prime time is just, I don't know about you. Every time I think of prime time, I think about Deion Sanders. Used to be my favorite football player. But prime time is the best time of the year. Prime time is the time of the year where it is the hottest time of the market, okay? So the best, time of the market is in the first quadrant. So I've said this numerous times. You got 4 quadrants of the marketplace, okay? You got spring wave, you got summer shift, you got the fall market, you got the holiday market, okay? Inside the spring wave, which lasts January 2nd to the end of May, is prime time. And prime time is like March to like mid-May-ish, okay? And the reason I call this prime time is because if on December 31st, we looked back, okay, and there was a line graph that decided when the peak was, okay, that would be prime time. Prime time is the peak of the market. It's as good as it gets. There's no better time than this. It's just like Jack Nicholson said. Is it Nicholas or Nicholson? Which one is it? One of those ones. Nicholas said, what if this is as good as it gets? And I wrote a newsletter about this, is like, what if this is as good as it gets? And what I tell people is this is literally as good as it's going to get for the marketplace. This is it. It's not going to get better than this. And that's why I call this prime time. So when does prime time start? Prime time starts March 1st, goes to like mid-May, sometimes end of May, but let's call it mid-May-ish. That's like, March 1st, like mid-May-ish, okay? When does it end? Mid-May, at latest June 1st, okay? Absolute latest June 1st. When is the peak? Is there like an actual peak in prime time? I'd say like end of March, beginning of April would be the absolute peak. That's it. That's where it goes. That's the peak. The peak. The peakity peak. That's where it goes. Prime time, it's just the time when you have literally the most listings coming on the marketplace. Because the average consumer that's selling in Chicago, specifically properties under $1 million, okay? So let's look at properties under $1 million. They think to themselves, well, who's listening in January, February, right? Because of the weather. So they're like, well, I want to listen in the spring. And to them, they think spring is March or April. So this is when we start seeing much more listings kind of consistently come on the marketplace. So when people ask me, why do we see more listings in March and April? It's solely a weather thing. It's solely a weather and a spring thing. It's just like that mentality of, got to list when the weather gets nice. The trees start to get in bloom. It's not like -10 every single day. So we start seeing listings hit more consistently. And what that brings is that brings more deals. Why would that bring more deals? If you got more inventory, you got more offers. You got more offers, you got more contracts. You got more contracts, you got more closings. It's that simple. Okay, that's why you have the most closings every year in April, May, and June. Okay, and it's all because of prime time. Now, what you also see during prime time is you see less anxiety buyers, meaning that like in January, February, buyers think like, oh, nothing else will come on the market, so I'm going to go crazy on it. Okay, that's why I call it the spring wave. It's because the first wave of inventory, it's like a war. The first guys that get off the boats, they're kind of wiped out. It's the second and third waves that kind of stick a little bit longer. So like we're now hitting that second wave of inventory, which happens during prime time, and we start seeing more troops come on, right? So people aren't as nervous about seeing more, because they know more are going to keep coming on the marketplace. So we don't see people go 50,000 over. I'm not saying that's not, somebody's going to be like, I just said 100,000. I get it. But I'm saying like we just don't see as many people freak out as much since there's more inventory consistently coming on. I compare prime time to like a football season, right? This is the beginning of the season. This is week 1 of the season now. Once March 1st hits, that's week 1 of the season. So from here on out, you're only going to see more inventory from here. It's not, if this was like September, I'd be like, this is the end of the season. Like once we hit October 1st, from then to like mid-January, like it's like Nordstrom Rack inventory is kind of picked over. Now we're at like, if this was Hoover Dam and it broke and the water comes through, the water coming through is listings in the marketplace. It's going to be nonstop coming on. What about these 3 bedrooms? That's our big thing we're missing out on right now. 3 beds. Do we see a lot more 3 beds during prime time? Right now, 3 beds are where 2 beds were in January. Okay, in January, all your 2-bedroom buyers wanted to buy something and nothing came on. And then by March, 2-bedroom buyers like, I don't know, I kind of see a lot of these things coming on the marketplace. There's a decent amount of inventory on them. 3 beds won't pick up until spring break. Spring break is in end of March, beginning of April this year. So, don't freak out if you haven't seen a ton of them yet. I mean, this podcast is being done in, what is this, March 10th, 11th, 12th? It's the 12th. It was my wife's birthday yesterday. I should know that. March 11th, Shout out to my wife, Nicole. We did a great thing for her birthday, by the way. We got one of those nothing but bud cakes, lit a candle, blew it out, put the kids to bed. Things get crazy when you got 4 kids for birthdays. Like little kids for birthdays. I wouldn't say we go all out anymore when you have little kids, especially if you have a newborn. There's nothing you can really do. You can't go out and get drunk. You got to have a newborn to take care of. Can't sleep in early or sleep in late. You got a newborn. You can't stay up late because you got a newborn. So it's like, it is what it is. But yeah. So anyways, we're March 13th, 12th, and we just have to know is like in the next probably 3-ish weeks, we're going to start seeing a lot more of these 3 bedrooms hitting the marketplace. Do sellers get top dollar during prime time? This is the peak of the peak. This is it. This is when you're going to get the most money. I've said this before. I probably said this last week. I'm going to say it again this week, and I'll say it again for the rest of my life. Real estate's a stock. It trades at different rates at different times of the year. You want the best money? You want the peak of the market? You sell during the peak of the market. Don't come to me in October telling me that your neighbor sold in March for X price. Don't do it. I don't want to hear it. I don't care about it. I'm not going to be a jerk about it, but I'm just going to tell you the data is the data. I can't change the stats, okay? What we can tell you is that if you're a seller and you want a top dollar, it goes back to what I said earlier. This is as good as it gets. This is it. Doesn't get better than this. You want the best money? List it during the best time. Let's see here. How crazy do multiple get during prime time? They get crazy. I will say, I think multiple bids, the craziness of them, it's really relative to the type of property you have, okay? You got a 3-bedroom in River North for $1.5 million, and this is what we're going to talk about tomorrow is the tale of 2 cities. But, what I can tell you is we ain't seeing multiple bids there, okay? You got a 3-bedroom for $700,000 in Lincoln Park. You'll sell it for $100,000 over ask price, okay? That'll happen. 2 bedrooms will get a little bit less than they would have gotten in January, February because there's more coming on the marketplace. But I could give you numerous examples of my buyers who've wrote $75,000 or $80,000 over ask price, and the sellers laughed at us and told us we weren't even close. I'd say on average right now, if it's a 3-bedroom, you're going to go close to $100,000 over ask price to get it. Again, depending on the neighborhood and depending on the price point. Let me back that up because I had a couple 3-bedrooms only went 50 over or 30 over. But if you price it below market, which is what a lot of these people are doing, they could get as much as 100. There was a place in Armitage that it had to go close to 100,000 over ask price. But I would say is that people pull out all the stops during prime time because it's that last moment that they have before they have to pull the trigger on either re-signing their lease or buying a place. So you're seeing a lot of kind of desperate buyers making decisions of I'd rather overpay for this than sign up for another lease. So that's why I think when we say do they get crazy? Yeah, they get pretty crazy. And we talked about this in our last episode about how crazy multiple bids get. What's the most amount of deals submitted by a client during prime time without winning? I got a couple guys that have had over 10 offers out. It's defeating for them, I'm sure. It's defeating for I like to win. Winners win, right? I say this all the time. Winners win. I'm a winner. I like to win. So when I lose, I get really pouty. I could be James, would you say I'm moody sometimes? Yeah? Yeah. I could be moody sometimes. But here's the thing. I think I submit 11 offers on Saturday, and I only got one of them. I haven't had a losing streak like that in a while. 11 offers, and I got one of them. So, do I have some buyers getting outbid consistently on listings? Yeah. And I'm sure they're going to get outbid again. But
once prime time's done with, guess what? Multiple bids get cut in half. It's nowhere near as crazy. But right now, yeah, we're going to see a lot of buyers get outbid during the prime time season. Do I take vacations during prime time? I absolutely do not. My first vacation is during July 4th. I go to Napa every year. I've said this a million times. So I'm a routine guy. I'm a man of routine. July 4th, take a vacation. Up until then, no days off. Well, I did take 2 days off this year already. I'm not going to lie to people. You know what? I had a kid. I had a kid. And I had to be honest about it. I had to take a half day when the kid was born, and I had to take another. I think it took another 2 or 3 half days when my daughter was born. So yeah, I mean, listen, it's got a lot of people take paternity leaves these days, right? Or what do they call them? Fraternity?
You should do it.
What's a male version called? Paternity? Is that what it is? Okay. A lot of people take those. I took 2 days. Yeah, no vacations. No, and I have a newborn. You can't take a vacation with a newborn. Let's see here. What's the average time that I leave the office during prime time? I don't know, 8 o'clock. Try to get home. I leave at 8. Then I eat dinner, wake my wife up, make her eat dinner with me, and then stay up till 12 o'clock and go to bed and wake up and do it all over again. So prime time is you want to take time, some me time, do it during slow season. Busy season is like when that's when you got to grind. If you're in sales, you own your business, and I know people always say I'm a psychopath the way I sound when they say this, but if you're in sales and you want to be successful, you got to take advantage of when it's the best market. You don't take your foot off the gas during the best time of the year. What about your theory on renters posing as buyers? Do they peak during peak season? Yes, they do. I have this theory of what I talk about is that a thing that really peaks. There's 2 times they peak now in September. Is renters who pose as buyers. So essentially, these are people who want to buy, but they really just talk themselves out of buying always. They're not really ready to buy. I'm not hating on you if you're one of these renters posing as buyers. I'm not. It's just that, not everybody, the timing isn't always right. And what happens, a lot of these renters that are posing as buyers, they run into resistance, right? It's like they see a bunch of places, they see a billion places, and then they realize that they don't want to buy. And I always say it's well, you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off. They're in Lincoln Square, then we're in South Loop, then we're in West Town, then we're in the West Loop, and then we're in this, and blah, blah, blah. And you're oh, I just can't find what I'm like. It's well, because you're spread too far out. It's really you're just talking yourself into renting anyways. We got clients that the minute they got to start writing offers, that they decide it's not right for them, and they're just not ready for it, so then they re-sign their lease. We got clients that once we go under contract, they get the inspection back, and then they decide that, it's maybe too much work for them, even though there was not much on the report, and they decide just to re-sign their lease. We got clients that when you get the condo docs, they read about them, they do some research on it, and even though there's not really that big of an issue, it's just kind of how all condo docs look, they decide to cancel the deal and re-sign their lease. Or we got clients that anything that happens, the stock market's been down a little bit. It hasn't crashed, okay? But even though it's down a little bit, they're everything that's happened in the economy, I'm going to take my foot off the gas and I'm just going to re-sign my lease and kind of see how things play out. I hear all these are all the excuses I hear, and I always tell people, and I'm not a jerk about it. At the end of the day, you're just a renter right now, and you're mentally just not there to buy, and that's not a bad thing. And again, I want to stress that I'm not hating on you if you're like this. It's just that some people just aren't ready. It's a big financial commitment. You're spending the most money you've probably ever spent in your life on a property, and unless you're buying your third or fourth place and you're spending a $4 million, $4 million, you're not everybody just mentally is there all the time, and they kill a lot of deals. And the problem with this that happens at this time of year, though, especially as somebody like myself who has a lot of listings, is it could be very frustrating. The fact that you could be getting close to the finish line and your sellers, they got a life too, so they pack all their stuff up. They got kids. They're getting ready to move, and then the deal dies 2 days before close, and then I have to deliver that message. And I know the excuse that I got wasn't a legit one. It was just that the guy was just probably too nervous to buy. They call it cold feet, but I call it just a renter that's posing as a buyer, and it really hurts, and it sucks to deliver that message, because if anybody's ever had to call up a seller after they've got all their stuff packed up, and they got kids, and they got all that stuff, and they're ready to move to their house, and then they find out the deal dies, and then they can't buy their next house. And, if you can imagine the amount that somebody can yell at you when they get that frustration, and ultimately, even though it's not our fault, we're the guys that are selling the house, so you're going to blame us no matter what. No matter what I do for you, no matter how much I show you, we have a famous line here that we're only as good as the information given to us, so it's we can only relay what is given to us, but no matter what, we're still going to be the ones to blame. And that's a big problem during prime time. The other big problem is like even with our own clients is that I see is that our clients will make these excuses and cancel. And I'll just tell them straight up. I'll be like, listen, I just don't think you were mentally there. And, again, I tell them like when you're ready again next year, we're here to help. Like, don't be embarrassed by it. Like, it is what it is. I think people get caught in the moment too, that they think that they want to buy and they think like, hey, I'm at that age, I'm financially responsible, I should be buying. It's like they feel like they're trying to talk themselves into it, but they're really just mentally not there. And that's the problem. The only people I'll ever talk crap about that are renters are posing as buyers it's specifically guys that we drive around and they bring like a girl with them and they're trying to impress them that they're going to buy, as if it's like the guys that like are spending $2,000 at like a club to try to think that they're cool. Like those guys make me mad because like we don't get paid to like cart you around these places. Okay, at that point we're just an Uber driver showing you some places so that you can brag to this person that like you may be like buying $1 million spot. Those are the only renters posing as buyers that drive me up the wall. And we've been doing it long enough that we could tell when it's happening. And I'll just call it out when I see it. I'm just like, are you really like a buyer or are you just like trying to impress this? Because you could tell. And somebody's like, oh, you don't want to put your foot in your mouth. You might be wrong. I'm like, you just know. Somebody's shooting a TikTok video, okay? And like while you're sitting there touring, like you just know, okay? So my point is though, for the people who legitimately think they want to buy it happens. It is what it is. But it is one of the reasons why we do see more contracts die from like mid-March to mid-April than any other time during the year. And for sellers out there, you have to be aware is that like this is a very real possibility, even though the market's super hot. And for buyers out there, just it is what it is. It's going to happen. It's always going to happen, et cetera. How many deals do we lose? I mean, I lose a deal every day of the week. Lost 2 today already. I think Jamie handles all of her contracts. I think she enjoys the fact when we get a deal. This morning I was driving. I got a screenshot from her of just one dying, like with a laughy face. Just thinks it's hilarious. Yeah, she goes, I could have seen this coming. Like just passive aggressive. Like, I could tell through like the text message what she meant by that too. But I mean, like listen, I don't think anybody's in the world is ever not frustrated when you lose a deal, but I mean, what are you going to do? This is peak cancellation season. So during prime time, you got peak listings, you got peak demand, you got peak contracts, but you're also going to have peak cancellations. So again, if you're going to have more at-bats, you're going to have more contracts, but you have more contracts, you're going to lose more. It's just naturally what's going to happen. So that's why we see a lot more contracts die during this time. What is a recent problem that can be happening today that can affect prime time? We got a tariff war going on, and the stock market tanked, although I think it's kind of creeping back today. But either way, there's a lot of uncertainty. Some people are looking at what's happening in the geopolitical climates of what's happening with, the war in the Middle East, Europe, and, our tariff war going on. They're getting a little bit nervous, and it's making some people pull back. The last 7-ish days or so, we've seen some people who were about to write a contract pull their offer. We've seen people that were searching said that they're going to go on pause. We've seen sellers say we're going to hold off on listing till this whole thing blows over. And like I just stated a minute ago, some people just aren't ready. People will look for an excuse not to do something. If the stock market dropping 1 to 5% is a reason why you're not going to buy, then you weren't going to buy anyways. You would have found something else to do it. And yes, the geopolitical climate could affect the marketplace. It's the same thing. If anybody watches this in October, when everybody said that 2025, and we could go back and you could look at my podcast in September, October, when I talked about what 2025 was going to be the best year since 22, that during that little election run between both parties, everybody got scared because they didn't know if their person was going to win. So that the market took a hit. The real estate market took a hit during the election season. And then after election season, the market took off like a rocket ship. And I had all these clients. I have all these clients now that didn't buy in November, December. We got people who legit made offers on properties and then pulled them. And then those same properties, the same ones, it's like the neighbors, because you got so much stuff in Chicago where it's like you got one here and you got another one here. And it's like they're like the same ones are now trading for $75,000 more than they were in November. And they're like, but Matt, remember we made that offer in November and it was $75,000 cheaper. Now there's 10 offers. Am I overpaying for it? I'm like, well, yeah. But then again, when things get bad, okay, when the market gets bad, that's when you get a better deal. But if when things get bad, that makes you scared to buy, then just like anything else, like other people are going to pull out, which means that like you either buy when there's blood in the water or you pay a premium when everybody else feels excited. But you can't have it both ways. So if like a tariff war or, the war's going on or the economy makes you nervous, I'm not telling you that like I'm cocky about it or I wouldn't be nervous if I was spending a bunch of money. I'm just saying that like you just have to know is that like there's going to be good days and bad days. And like if you're going to commit to something, I would just commit to it. But if the other stuff kind of makes you nervous, it is what it is. This is prime time. I think overall these things aren't going to affect prime time as a whole. I think prime time is still going to be amazing. But I do think a lot of like, let's call it like the low-hanging fruit of people who might be buying are going to be a little bit more scared to do so. What's my best advice? Oh, do I think prime time's going as expected? I think it's playing out exactly as we planned, like to the T. Like, I mean, it's happening. I don't think it could be going as well as I thought. The only thing that I might be a slight bit off on is I did think that we would have more showings on the $1 million plus properties in the downtown markets. I didn't think that this year would be a great market for downtown. I did think it would maybe be a little bit better, although I'm kind of right in the sense that like the ultra high-end market in the downtown has been like better than it's ever been. Like we're seeing like $7 to $10 million sales like on the reg right now. And even during like pre-pandemic, we didn't see that. It's that middle ground. It's at like 1 million to like 3 million. That's like super soft. But like $5 and $6 million places for some reason are just like, I don't get it. They're popping. I'm not selling any of the $7 million places. Okay. But like the places above 7 in certain buildings have been doing really well. What's my best advice to sellers during prime time? Don't miss the window. Don't miss this window. Don't miss this window and list in July hoping for a March price. If you're a seller, speed is everything. Use speed to your advantage. Get it on the market. Take advantage of the marketplace. Don't miss this window. What's my best advice to buyers during prime time? Just note that you get the best quality inventory at this season. So the best inventory, Tier A inventory comes out at this time, but you're gonna pay a price for it. So you're gonna overpay to buy in prime time. There's just no way around it. But guess what? You gotta overpay, you get the best quality inventory. You want a better deal? Buy in the summertime. Want as much quality inventory, okay? And if you're too scared for multiple bids or you don't like getting outbid constantly, wait till June, July. You might have a little bit less options, but you won't pay as much. That's it. It's that simple for both parties. What can we expect after prime time? Summer shift. Summer shift hits June 1st, and I think the summer shift this year is not going to shift as much as we normally see. So I do think we're going to have a very strong summer market, but the shift will be felt, and it will be strong, just not as strong as the summer shift happened last year. So if you want more information about what's happening during prime time, you want to know what's happening in the marketplace, we do a Monday market update. Every single Monday, we send a market update. Subscribe to our newsletter. It's got the best information you can get. Thanks for listening to Laricy Live.